and welcome back to my table. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Aelxbomb, and today is a big topic that no one ever wants to talk about, but it affects you, even if you do not talk about it. So you should talk about it. What am I talking about today? Cell phones. That's stable. Cell phones, that's stable. What do you do about it? Why does it matter? Well, I can tell you why it matters. Before the incident, I did not care about cell phones at my table at all. I was very much, I didn't even have a conversation about it. I didn't even mention it. I was very much in a, you're an adult, and if you want to miss things at my table, then you can miss things at my table. It's your fault. I'm not going to catch you up kind of a thing. It's your own fault if you fail at this kind of a thing. And because I thought that being on your cell phone and being connected to the internet and being scrolling on the internet only affected you and the way that you perceive the game and the way that you enjoy the game. And if you don't want to enjoy my table, you just want to be out of the house for some reason, then I guess go ahead, scroll just like you could be scrolling on your bed, but you're here, so whatever. If that's your choice, that's your choice. You're an adult and you can make those choices. However, it can actually be so much worse than that. I'm not gonna lie. So I had a player who we're going to call Bob, in 2018. So I was not a baby DM anymore. I've been DMing since 2015. So I wasn't a baby DM at this point, but I definitely wasn't at the stage in my life yet where I had the ability to speak up for myself. And I had the ability to act on, I had to really be confident in what I was saying before I acted on it instead of just trusting my gut. And I had a table in 2018 that was wonderful and fantastic. And it consisted of an old friend, my boyfriend, who is now my husband, a guy who is really, really cool, and another guy who was not so cool, but that's another story, and Bob. Bob was perfectly fine. He was very average. He was a very new player. He was a very average new player, wanted to play an emo, not talking, sorcerer, shadow sorcerer, or whatever sorcerer, I forgot what it was, but he wanted to play a very nobody understands me sorcerer, which is very classic for somebody who is playing for the first time. And he was fine. He was cool. He was good, but I did not realize the shitstorm that was going to come because of him. And that is, he asked me early on in the creation of the table, hey, do you mind if I'm on my phone? And I said, hey, it's your choice if you want to be on your phone. If you want to not be involved in what's going on, then that's a choice. You're an adult. You can make your own decisions. But I'm not going to coddle you because you're on your phone. And he said, yeah, that's totally fine. It's just for my ADHD. I just have ADHD. And so it's really nice to be able to go on my phone and do a couple of things at once. I promise it won't be that distracting. Spoiler alert, it was very distracting. So, at first, whenever he would go on his phone, it would just be a little bit. It would just be during combat or during other people's scenes or whatever. And that's perfectly fine. I understand. You get bored, you go on your phone because other people are having scenes and you're not really one to interrupt. Also, his character was, again, a very, don't talk to me kind of character. So it wasn't like his character was going to actually interact with a lot of other things that are going on in the world. This is how it starts out, but we played this campaign for, I believe, 2 to 3 years. And over the course of those 2 to 3 years, it got progressively worse. It got slowly but surely, like a frog in a boiling pot of water, it became bad. Really, really bad. To the point where he was on his phone from the point that we started the session to the point that we ended the session the entire time. At one point, I do specifically remember calling him out because he was really, really bad at his character. He was playing a sorcerer. He was new. He had no idea what he was doing, and he refused to learn his spells. So at one point, Max was helping him out. My husband was helping him out with his character because Max has played sorcerers before and is also a very helpful guy. And so he ended up helping Bob play his sorcerer so much that at one point, Bob looked at Max and said, hey, will you just take my turn for me? You know what to do and I don't. And then handed his sheet to Max, and then went back to his phone. That is how much he would be on his phone. So it was intense. It was pretty intense. And it all kind of came to a head, and my entire opinion of person being on their phone, because I was like, wow, if you want to be on your phone this bad, you can be on your phone. Like, I'm totally fine with that. It's just that, why are you at my table at this point? And I kind of came to figure out that part of the reason why he was at the table was to get away from his mom, because his mom was harping on him for being on video games and not being around people a lot. So he came to D&D to try to appease his mom for being around people but still playing games. So that ended up being a thing that we had to address as well. But he ended up being on his phone constantly. And I didn't know that he was doing this until a little while in, but he was actually reading manga at my table. So he was completely ignoring my table, completely ignoring everything that was going on. I would ask him to interact and he would be like, yeah, sure. In fact, at one point he asked me to stop asking him to interact. And if he wanted to interact, he would interact. And I said, yeah, okay, no problem. You're an adult. You make those adult decisions. That is your decision to make. I am going to respect that, whether that is beneficial for you or not. That is what you're asking me to do. That is what I am going to do. So that was kind of the name of the game. But he was reading manga at my table, and it got so bad that he was so distracted and he had no idea what was going on at the table. So it all came to a head when we were talking to a little boy whose dad had been in cahoots with an aboleth and had started a cult around this aboleth. And he was born to be the successor of the cult to the aboleth, worshiping the aboleth, and to take over all of the wives that the guy had and all of this stuff. Again, I'm adult only games. So we were in this conversation with the boy where he was just now realizing how horrible of a person his dad was, because his dad hit his mom in front of him, and the boy would defend his mom to the death. The mom raised him. The mom cared for him. The mom showed him love and compassion, where the father showed him strength and power. And he loved his mom dearly. And so whenever the dad hit the mom, the boy realized, oh, the dad is actually evil. And they were in the middle. The really cool guy at my table was in the middle of having a very deep heart-to-heart with this boy. And all of a sudden, out of Bob, we hear, oh, sorry. This is really funny. This is a really funny manga. You should read it. That's what he did. In the middle of this very dramatic, very deep-seated emotional scene, he started laughing at his manga and then recommended we read it. It killed the vibe. It killed the mood for everyone, even the weird kid. It killed the mood. And we actually ended the session early because none of us could really get back into it. So I ended up having a conversation with Bob after this, being like, that was incredibly inappropriate. That was, you do even understand what was going on around you whenever you started laughing? And he was like, no, not really. My manga was really enticing. I'm sorry. I use it as an ADHD tool to pay attention, but sometimes it gets really distracting. I don't know, man, but I will let you know I kicked that guy out of my table. I did, because we ended up having a conversation where I was like, okay, no phones at the table. And he ended up getting really aggressive about it. He ended up being like really like in my face, being like, what do you mean no phones? Like, is this a punishment for me? Are you directly targeting me? Why are you targeting me? You know, all of that kind of stuff. Like, and he ended up bringing like race into the conversation, which the race was never in the conversation. And it was very, very uncomfortable. So I ended up kicking him from my table. But where does that leave us with phones? Where does that leave us with phones? Obviously, saying nothing about phones is not a good idea because it leads to things like Bob. And then There is the entire issue of the fact that D&D Beyond is mostly used on mobile. People don't bring their laptops to use D&D Beyond. They use their phones for D&D Beyond. They roll their dice on their phones on D&D Beyond. So now the phone, for some people, is a necessity for them to play D&D. I've gone back and forth on this. I really have. And I'm very lucky that my most recent players were very, very good about only looking at their phones for D&D Beyond. And also they rolled outside of D&D Beyond, so they actually did some of the math. And so they weren't really getting sucked into their phone. They were really invested in the game. But honestly, this is a very, very frustrating conundrum that I don't know if there's a clear solution to. So I would love to hear what everybody else is doing at their table about phones, especially with D&D Beyond. But I think me personally, I'm going to iterate on what I did at my most recent table, just tweak it a little bit. I'm going to ask everyone, hey, can we all use paper character sheets? Is that okay? Most people have used paper character sheets in the past, at least a little bit, or at least know somewhat how a paper character sheet works. And honestly, my DMing style works a lot better if you have a paper character sheet, because I can give you rewards and I can give you punishments on your character sheet, and it becomes a much more dramatic. Also, it doesn't require an internet connection, because there were several times where we did not play because the person who was hosting didn't have an internet connection, so there was no way for us to reach D&D Beyond. Next, I'm going to add the talk into my session zeros. And there's two parts to this talk. One, we are all adults. We all have free will, and we choose to spend our Saturdays with community playing games. We are choosing to be social and present. So let's do that and keep all the phone usage to a minimum. I'm not going to police you, but I will be watching. And then that kind of goes into number 2, which is if it seems like people are having a hard time staying off their phones, I may implement an abuse it, you lose it policy. It's very embarrassing to be called out, and I'm not trying to embarrass anyone or make anyone afraid, especially if you are struggling. But we are here to be present. We are here to play a game. We are here to build community, and being sucked into your phone over and over and over again by notifications and all that kind of stuff kind of ruins it. I think, and it's a big I think, that this is the best approach and a best policy to get people off of their phones. A, it reminds everyone that we choose to be here and we want to be here out of our own free will. And B, it's a team mentality. I am not the villain trying to get you off of your phone. I am another person trying to get you to be part of the team and enjoy what we are creating together. Just to be perfectly clear, I am not talking about checking on a kid or making sure that a parent's okay or checking in with your husband or asking what's for dinner or anything like that. Even like looking at your phone after you made a really difficult turn and a really difficult decision to decompress and de-stress from what the game just put you to. What I mind is whenever an app that is designed to monopolize your time monopolizes it at my table. When your phone takes you out of the game and into the scroll. Bob is not the only time that this has happened at my table, and I've even been lost in the sauce a couple of times. I'm not even gonna lie. But if we approach this as a team and realize it's us versus the technology, we can be more present and active while playing kick-ass games and building a community. Okay, well, that's going to do it for me. I would love to hear your thoughts, mostly on your policies of phone use at the table, especially if you can stop yourself from getting sucked into D&D Beyond on your phone. How do you do that? Like, do you put it on D&D, like do not disturb? Like how do you stop yourself from being sucked into the phone? And speaking of sucking you in, what about subscribing? I'm trying to get to 1K by 2027, and I really think that I can do it if you subscribe. So please do so and hit that notification bell because apparently it does something. Also, if you want more of me, you are welcome to follow me on Twitch. The links will be in the doobly-doo down below. All right, I will see you in the next video. And as always, y'all are always welcome at my table. Bye bye.